Well, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of What the Fuck Happened to the Chicago Bears on game day. I'm Ivan Vargas. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It was an ugly loss yesterday, ugly rain-soaked loss at Soldier Field, 33-22. The Arizona Cardinals came in here and, quite honestly, just beat the crap out of the Chicago Bears with no respect whatsoever. It was over from the jump, to be honest with you. 2 interceptions right off the bat for Andy Dalton after Andy Dalton had a decent game against the lowly Lions, even though the Lions got their first victory yesterday against Minnesota. You had a horrible, horrible start to the game for the Chicago Bears. First 3 drives, touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. And, that was it. That was pretty much the ball game from there on out. And you have to just wonder, where do you go from here? How do you continue to get your team motivated for a Green Bay? Get your team motivated for the Minnesota Vikings coming in here. Get your team motivated for the Seattle Seahawks. And the Seattle Seahawks ended up getting a win yesterday and keeping their playoff hopes alive. And, looking at them, they're getting better. Like they weren't a great team early in the season, but hey, they're finding ways to win. And that's all you can ask for in this league. But that's not what we get from this team in Chicago. We don't get them finding ways to win. It's usually finding ways to sabotage what's working. And yesterday we saw that in Matt Nagy just kind of forgetting about David Montgomery. And I'm not necessarily saying, they didn't run the ball a whole hell of a lot. They did at times 21 carries, I believe he had. I like the 20 carries, but in a game like this, you need 30. You need 30 carries for David Montgomery. David Montgomery had 91 yards on the football game. He had a great game. He was pretty much everything for you, and then you decided to leave him high and dry in some of the most important situations on the goal line. You leave him high and dry. You opt for a quarterback sneak. The biggest play, I think the one that was pretty much game over. The series that was pretty much game over was the last series the Bears had of the first half. You have just stupidity. I feel like it's just no balls. Cowardice, whatever you want to call it. Matt Nagy decides he doesn't want to go for it on 4th down and 2, down 21 points. You're already getting your ass kicked at that point, coach. You might as well go ahead and at least give your team an opportunity to find some points. You were at midfield, but the game was out of reach as is. Like I said, Arizona came in and did what the Chicago Bears should have done. Not a whole hell of a lot of passing, only 15 attempts. Kyler Murray had 123 yards, 2 touchdowns passing, although he worked with a short field most of the game. But what they did was they ran over 30 times. Kyler Murray had 10. James Conner added 20. Kyler Murray with 59 yards and 2 touchdowns. You had James Conner with 20 carries and 75 yards. And James Conner could have gotten a touchdown in there if he wanted to. It was just a great game. It was the game plan I watched from the Arizona Cardinals was the game plan I was hoping for with the Chicago Bears. And quite honestly, we didn't get that at all. We haven't gotten that all year. Cliff Kingsbury out coaching Matt Nagy, another set of coaches, another coaching staff out coaching the Chicago Bears. It's getting sickening. What's going to happen this week? You got the Green Bay Packers. You have no confidence. At least I have no confidence that you're going to go up to Lambeau Field and upset the Packers and come back home with a victory. It doesn't add up with the way you're running things here in Chicago. Like I said, you're going to get Matt LaFleur out coaching you again. You're going to see Mike Zimmer out coaching Matt Nagy. You're going to see Pete Carroll out coach Matt Nagy. There's going to be so many games this season that you could look back and you just say, what were we doing? What were we doing? What were we thinking when we decided to go run it back with this group of coaches? I don't know. I don't understand it. You've seen it last week. You've seen it this week. You've seen it in that 5-game losing streak. Just continuing to get out coached, continuing to be lackluster in the most critical of situations. Matt Nagy's not the only one to blame. You got a lot of blame to go around. Defense can't get off the field on 3rd down. Defense can't get off the field on 3rd down whatsoever. You had that. There was one that Nuke Hopkins. There was a little bit of a push off. I know Rashad Kennedy had pointed it out, but you just got beat on 3rd down. It was 3rd and 10. How do you let that man beat you straight away? I mean, double move, whatever. You just got beat, Jalen Johnson, and that's what happens. It sucks, but you have to make the play. You have to be able to stay with your man, lock him up. I don't care if it's DeAndre Hopkins or not. You're trying to be a number one cornerback in this league, a number one cornerback that we need you to be. You got to be able to come up with a big play on 3rd and 10. It just didn't happen. It just didn't happen. And quite honestly, it hasn't happened all year for the Chicago Bears defense. The pass rush is there. You got guys, you got linebacker, you got individual players having success on the defense, but it's just not the total package that you want. It's not the complete team game that you want, game in and game out. Point to a game where it was complete. Point to a game where you felt like both the offense and the defense were just outstanding. The special teams did a job. Point a game out this season where you saw that. I haven't seen it so far this year. It's been worse than what I thought. I honestly thought the Bears were going to get out of here with at least 8 to 9 wins this year. That's not happening. I just don't see it happening throughout the rest of the schedule. Maybe you steal one from the Vikings. Maybe you steal one from the Vikings. Let's see who else you have on there. I forgot the team after you play Seattle. I think it's the New York Giants. You play the New York Giants, so you have another opportunity. You could probably beat the New York Giants the way the Giants are built right now, the way that they've been playing. You might be able to beat the New York Giants. Other than that, point out a victory with the remaining games on the schedule. I just don't see it. I don't see it. Maybe you beat the Giants, and then maybe you steal one from the Vikings. But other than the Giants, who do you see that they could beat? I just don't trust it. Yeah, Minnesota lost to Detroit this week, but the Lions have been playing everybody tough all year long. I mentioned that last week on Thanksgiving, that the Detroit Lions, they've been in so many close games where it's been decided by less than a field goal. Some of them been less than a field goal, some of them a field goal. So, the Lions beating the Vikings isn't something that the Lions could have beat you last week. So the Lions beating the Vikings isn't as dubious as people think. It's actually probably beneficial to the Vikings because now they know how they have to play for something. Now they know that they can't be screwing around with the Chicago Bears because they could pick up 2 easy wins. So you're going to get the best out of the Minnesota Vikings. You're going to get the best out of the Green Bay Packers come this week. You're going to get the best out of the Seattle Seahawks. All these teams have playoff implications going for them. They have a playoff seed. They're going to make the playoffs. Most of these teams. I don't know if the Seahawks are going to make it. The Vikings are still there, but they're all fighting for a playoff spot. They all can contend, minus the New York Giants. Where do you pick up more than one victory in this next slate of games? I just don't see it. Same old shit. Offensive game plan. A different day. It was too much throwing. Again, how many times have we said it? Run the football. Use David Montgomery as your feature back. Use him as your best offensive weapon, which he is. And there's just so much neglect. 21 carries, 90 yards. He was gashing them when you were giving them the ball. Gashing them. And then you'd go away from it. If he gets stopped, I'll play a clip from Alex Brown. I had played on Sean and Maya in the morning. As soon as I loaded up, it doesn't make sense. David Montgomery goes out there, gives you his heart, 10, 15 yards. Gets hit in the backfield, fights for 5 yards after breaking 5 tackles. He does things like that. And then, excuse me. Let me restart that. He does things like that. And you take him out of the game. And then on top of that, you take him out of the game and you don't really use Khalil Herbert as a change of pace back. You just don't use Khalil Herbert at all. He's pretty much a decoy out there because you don't know how to design runs. You don't know how to design a game plan for what you do best. Not let alone with Justin Fields out there. You haven't done it with Andy Dalton. What you do best is run the football with David Montgomery. He was gashing him in the run game. He was tearing him up in the short passing game. Those swing passes outside when he had one-on-one with the cornerback. The guy is not there most of the time. Majority of the time, that guy is not there. You've seen David giving some nasty-ass stiff arms. Just the tenacity of that dude. And every time he touches the football, he had mentioned in his post-game conference that he's not going to give up on this team, regardless of who on the outside is giving up on this team. And I mean, you got to commend the man. You have to commend the man. He's given you his body, his heart, his soul, and your team can't find a way to win. Your coach can't find a way to get out of his own way. See if I could find this here. Had it up earlier. So you're looking at a guy in David Montgomery who's clearly frustrated. He doesn't want to say the wrong thing. The guy is just a class act. He's not going to say the wrong thing. He's not going to do the wrong thing. He's just going to do him, keep playing hard, keep doing everything that he can to help this football team. But when you take the ball away from him, and he was only in there, and I want to point that out. He was only in there for about 70% of the snaps. 70% of the snaps. Damiere Byrd had 85% of the snaps. That's about 12 more snaps, I believe, when I counted them up. 12 more than what David Montgomery have. Does Damiere Byrd really give you the fucking best threat? Is he really your best threat out there? Damiere Byrd, you had Damiere Byrd out there more than you had, and I know you had Godwin gone. You had brought Adams up, who just, man, you had an opportunity, kid, and you laid an egg there twice. This thing is annoying. So you laid an egg twice. Now you're looking for playmakers out there. Damiere Byrd, he came up with a couple big catches, a couple nice catches, but shit, all season long, has he been there? That was probably the most I heard Damiere Byrd's name called in a football game this year. Why don't you give the kid more touches? Do you hate him? You talk so well, you talk so highly about him, but then you go ahead and you do the opposite of what we think you should do. It doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't make sense to me. Too many passes. Andy Dalton had 41 attempts. 41 attempts. No, you ain't. Early in the game, you were getting away from it. You started off the game, and like I said, you had 3 interceptions to start off the game. Let's see what those first 3 plays are. You got David Montgomery, no gain. David Montgomery, 4 yards. Andy Dalton with a pass that gets intercepted. So I understand the first one. Maybe the first one's not. Maybe the first one was just, hey, it is what it is. You had Grant open in the flat. He couldn't get his hand on it. It was a bad pass behind him. Andy's got to be better. Andy's had a lot of throws since he's been back in. And I don't know if it's because he needs to knock the rust off. He needs to go ahead and get back into the groove. The excuses are over for me. You got to be better. The guy was wide open in the flat. You threw it behind him. He tried to make some type of a play, and it ended up getting picked off. To be honest with you, I think it might have ended up getting picked off. Cornerback was a little far off. I don't know how far he was closing wise, but it's just, you cannot make mistakes like that when you're a bad football team. The best to keep the ball on your side is to make sure David Montgomery gets more than 20 carries and is on the field more than 70% of the time, and not giving 12 more offensive snaps to Damiere Byrd and other guys that you fancy, because it's pretty much the Matt Nagy favorite show when it comes to personnel. If you're in his favor, he will do everything he can for you. If you challenge him and you question things or what have you, go against the grain, he condemns you, and you're pretty much an outcast to the rest of the team, right? Jakeem Grant had 63% of the snaps. I don't know if Jakeem Grant deserves 63% of the snaps. I really don't. I think you need to start going heavy. You need to start stacking up the tight ends. You need to have a big set in there. 2 receivers, 2 tight ends, David Montgomery. And if you want to throw a fullback back there, you put J.P. Holtz, and you get things going downhill. Other than that, you don't need to go wide or spread every single fucking time. David Montgomery was gashing them for nasty yardage, and you went away from him. Armando's Nagy, Hubris, Harem. I don't know what that is. His and the team's downfall. Yeah, explain to me what that is, Armando. But I'm sure it's bad. It's not. It doesn't sound like a good thing whatsoever. But nonetheless, you're trying to find a silver lining in what is a sad season so far. You got guys like, and to be honest with you, who the hell knew that Robert Quinn was playing with a tumor? God, that guy's a warrior. So you got a couple guys with heart on this team. David Montgomery, Roquan. You got Robert Quinn. It just doesn't. It's just not enough. You don't have enough of those guys. You don't have enough of those guys that really want it. And I told you guys a couple weeks ago, start looking at the players you want to keep around, the players that are giving you their all, week in and week out, despite their coach, despite what's going on around them, what's been said around them. Look for those guys. David Montgomery is one of those guys. Cole Kmet had a horrible game yesterday. He had opportunities. He even ushered in one of those interceptions that got taken back 77 yards by Budda Baker because he couldn't hold on to the football. Wet conditions or not, you got to be able to hold on to the rock. They went to him so many times where he couldn't haul the ball in, and it ended up kicking us in the ass, man. We ended up paying for it. So you have a lack of playmaking ability out on the football field, a lack of separation from your receivers, an unwillingness to run the football at all costs. And I mean David Montgomery out there 90% of the time, 85% of the time, more than Damiere Byrd. I know that much. You had James Conner out there 91% of the snaps. He had 48 snaps. 48 snaps. They only snapped the ball 53 times. So because you had such a short field to work with, their offense wasn't on the field as much. So they only had 53 offensive snaps. And, you kept your lead back, your big lead back out there 91% of the time. That's how they won the game, to be honest with you. Other than they would have won this game doing what we should have done because we would have passed it 40-some times regardless of the situation. Now let's go ahead and listen to what Matt Nagy has to say about competing against Green Bay.
Where do you get any confidence that you guys will be able to compete next week with Green Bay, for example, when all of the really good teams you've run up against this year have beaten you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just keep fighting. Let the guys know, man, we're in this thing together. So no matter who we're playing, whatever their record is, whoever they are, we know, again, Green Bay is another team, top of the league in record-wise. Unbelievable quarterback, and they're on a roll right now. So the only thing that we can do is keep fighting and sticking together. And I know it can sound old. I know it can sound monotonous. I got you. But when you're in these moments and you're in that locker room together and you're fighting together and everyone's practicing and you're in meetings together and then you go out in that field together, we're always going to give it everything that we got. That's all we can do, no matter who we're playing. And, it just so happens that they're up next and they're a hell of a football team coming off a bye, and they'll be ready too.
Shut the fuck, shut. Did I say no? Oh, shit. Say it again. Say something else.
That's just the same old bullshit. Like, no, you're not going to be ready. No, you're not going to be able to compete with Green Bay. Not like this. Not like this. You're not going to be able to compete with Green Bay the way that you operated on Sunday, the way that you operated majority of this game. There's no way in hell you even sniff 20 points. I think Green Bay holds you to under 15 points in next week's game. They're going to go ahead and just scheme for David Montgomery because that's your best weapon. And they're going to go ahead and say, hey, go ahead and try to beat us with Andy. Their pass rush is pretty good. Their defense is solid. That's a pretty solid team up in Green Bay. You saw them this year. You saw how the way they've been playing. You're going to have to be perfect to beat the Green Bay Packers. And I don't think you can be. I don't think this team has it in them. I mean, they have, like I said, they have spots. They have certain players who are, just awesome, amazing. The Montgomerys, the Quinns, Darnell Mooney for the most part, but Darnell needs to go ahead and start catching some passes in big spots. There's too many passes that go through the hands of Darnell Mooney for us to expect him to be a number one receiver. I'm sorry. It's just too many missed opportunities from him in big spots, mainly in across the middle, mainly deep across the middle. Those, big, those deep posts. He just can't seem to hold on to the football. Anything across the middle of the field, Darnell Mooney is a little skeptical in my eyes. You have a tight end, like I said, who can't catch. You don't have any other threat downfield. Allen Robinson was out. You had Akeem Hicks out. You had a bunch of guys out. But I don't even think having Allen Robinson was going to be a difference in this game. Allen Robinson hasn't even been whatever we think Allen Robinson is this year. And whether he's, disgruntled because he's having a contract issue or what have you, it's just not – it's not the all out here. I'm going to put my balls on the line and give you my all and show either you or show the other teams around the league that I'm deserving of a contract. It's been a lackluster performance all season long. You have, and I want to play this clip from Happy Gilmore, because this is how I see Matt Nagy's motivational speeches going in the locker room.
Gary Potter, great to have you on the tour, Happy. I feel a lot of solid energy coming out of you. Good, positive aura. Great. It's all great.
Yeah, nice to meet you, man. Is it always like this with the TV cameras and the people and stuff?
Oh, yeah, a lot of pressure. You got to rise above it. You got to harness in the good energy, block out the bad. Harness, energy, block, bad. Feel the flow, Happy. Feel it. It's circular. It's like a carousel. You pay the quarter, you get on the horse. It goes up and down and around.
Like, what the fuck are you talking about half the time? And I'm sure the defense, the offensive personnel, I'm sure guys in that locker room, coaches even, are just sick of it. They don't want to hear it. They just want results. Same with the fans. They want results. You got a couple of things here that I want to go ahead and point out real quick. Damn it. If I could get that loaded up, and maybe it's not going to do it for me. Here, I'm just going to go ahead and play this clip before we get out of here, because I can't seem to, this thing doesn't seem to want to load for me. Last thing I want to go ahead and leave you guys with, there's a clip from Dave Kaplan from the Football After Show that perfectly sums up that clip I shared with you guys of Matt Nagy and what it makes us sound like as an organization, as a football city. Here's what it sounds like to Dave Kaplan. Here's what it sounds like to majority of the Chicago Bears fans around the country.
You think you can compete with Green Bay on Sunday Night Football? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Here we go.
Here we go.
Well, light them up, Cap. We're going to try. They got a great How about you're goddamn right we're going to come there to compete. Woo! Sorry for swearing on TV. It's cable. We're going to be there to compete. And if you don't think we will, don't cover the game. God, we sound like such losers. Well, we're going to try. We'll get there, and Aaron's really good, and I'm peeped out think he's going to beat our ass. Really?
He ain't lying.
He ain't lying. Aaron Rodgers is going to come and whoop our ass again. The guy owns us, remember? I was talking to a couple people after that game, after that Packer game. I own you. A motherfucker tells me I own you, we're going to fight. Like, that's just pretty much it. I own you. Somebody's going to go ahead and try to dog me, we're going to probably fight. That's just what it is. That's just who I am. With this Bears team, nobody wants to fight. Except a couple guys. I won't say nobody. There's a couple guys that are fighting. David Rowe. You got Robert Quinn. There's a few guys fighting. I'm sure there's a couple more sprinkled in. Houston Carson, guys like that. But you get a guy coming in here that's just whooped your ass year in and year out, and you're sitting here lying to yourself. You're lying to us again, telling us that you're believing that we can compete. There's going to be no competition. There's going to be no competition on Sunday. There's going to be no competition. The Green Bay Packers are going to roll their asses out of bed, stretch, walk or bicycle their asses over to Lambeau, and get ready to whoop the Chicago Bears' ass yet again. Oh, I'm all good, Alex. Yeah, I was just I had explained it earlier. I had a failing muscle. I overworked it, and it started pumping a bunch of creatine into my body, way too much natural creatine. The muscle was pumping into my body. It was probably some of the worst pain I've ever felt, the worst pain, to be a physical pain I have felt in my life. So they had to take me to the hospital. They're pumping fluids into me. I'm all good now. All the levels are going down. Everything's good, but I'm solid. Still doing this, though, because to be honest with you, I'd be laying in this bed just watching Home Alone 3, I think this is. Or is this a Santa Claus? Whatever it is, I don't really care to watch it. It's going to be a good one with Buffalo and New England coming up in a couple hours. But looking at this team, looking at what we were talking about here, when are the lies going to stop? When is the general run-of-the-mill bullshit going to stop? When are they going to step up and do something out of the ordinary, extraordinary, if you will? Fire the coach and start looking ahead. So many names out there. I don't want to even get into it because it could be it could be a litany of people. It could be somebody that we'd even think about, because we don't know how the Bears work. The Bears are unpredictable in that fashion. I feel like they'll pick the yes man, but it won't be the yes man that you think it's going to be. Or they'll pick, or they'll sabotage themselves by asking stupid non-football questions and wondering if guys are going to go ahead and actually speak their mind when it comes to football. Guys, I'm gonna leave you with just this. When it comes to next season, and it comes to rehiring a new head coach, rehiring a GM, president of football operations, just make sure that you respect them. If you're the McCaskies, make sure that you respect what they have to say. Make sure you respect their input. Make sure that you're going to humble yourself in order to get past whatever this NFL hell we're living in. And it's quite honest, it's a very simple game. It's a very simple plan that Sean laid out. Sean laid out a pretty good one this morning, but it's a very simple thing that they have to do. They just got to do what's best for this football team. And if that's stepping away, then you're going to have to do something about it. Guys, I'm Ivan Vargas. You've been watching What the Fuck Happened to the Chicago Bears. But, to be honest with you, it can only get better. We have Justin Fields. We got David Montgomery. There's some pieces on this team. We just need to get rid of the head coach and change the culture, the best culture in the league, in order to do it. So it's gonna be a ways. We don't have a first round draft pick. It's gonna be a little bit, but once you get rid of this guy, once you put out the dumpster fire, I just think things will get better. Things will start to look up. You got to get ahead of everybody else if you want the best head coach available. Guys, I'm Ivan Vargas. I will see you